If you're a beginner in jiu-jitsu, you probably have been joint locked at some point. It usually happens pretty quickly, and as you're noticing, it's hard to solve unless you know what to do. Someone had asked me to cover this in a previous video in one of the comments, and I thought, what a great idea. So if you struggle with continuously getting caught in joint locks that you see coming, but you don't know how to solve, you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Now, before we jump into the submissions, I want you to keep a few things in mind. This video is not made to show you how to submit people with these certain submissions. It's made to show you how to solve them or nullify them. Secondly, I don't want to sit here and sell you the moon and the stars and tell you that these defenses are always going to work. It really depends on who you're going with. If you're going with a more advanced belt, there's a good chance that they're going to transition to something else and find the submission anyways. If you have an arm or a leg that gets isolated, you're in great danger. So one of the biggest things you can do is prevent arm extension or leg extension in certain positions. But with that knowledge alone, we can sharpen ourselves a little bit. We understand that if we're going against an upper ranking belt, yeah, they will transition to other things. If you're going against a newer belt, these people tend to overcommit and really sell their soul to try to get the submission. And a lot of times they'll burn out trying to get a submission. What I want you to remember is it doesn't matter if you're going with a lower rank or an upper rank. You don't need to be perfect at defending these submissions. You just need to be a big enough pain in the ass so that the person applying the submission feels that it's not worthwhile to pursue it any longer. And as I've said in other videos in the past, there's opportunity in movement. So your opponent transitions to something else, there's movement, that's your opportunity for escape. Keep all those in your back pocket because they will apply to everywhere in jiu-jitsu, but also very specifically to this video. The first submission that you're going to be victimized a lot in jiu-jitsu as a beginner is the Americana, especially from bigger guys. As you can see in this example, I'm in mount. My opponent or training partner pushes up on me. I get both of my hands on his forearm and I use my body weight to force his arm to the ground. I then drop my right elbow next to his face and I begin to set up the Americana. If you're new to jiu-jitsu, you probably don't know how the Americana works or what it does. It creates a lot of twisting force inside the shoulder, which can cause breaking of bone and shredding of soft tissue. So you complete this on someone fully, yeah, you're changing the way that shoulder feels for them for the rest of their lives. You're essentially negatively affecting them forever. So it is the real deal. It is a powerful submission that you have to respect. An easy out or an easy nullification of the Americana is once they get your arm pinned to the mat and it's stuck in that 90-degree angle, you punch your arm straight. Now, this solves the Americana, but it also, depending on how you have your thumb positioned, can set up a straight arm lock. And if you're doing this against an upper rank belt, they have a greater chance of finding that straight arm lock. One thing you can do to keep yourself safe from the straight arm lock is make sure your thumb isn't pointing up to the sky if you're on your back. If you're on your back, you want your thumb pointed down towards the mat as much as possible. As you can see here, I'm trying to force the straight arm lock or the Americana with his thumb down and his arm extended, and I have neither. Are you in the clear completely? No. Your opponent is still in mount. You need to solve that problem, and your arm is still isolated. That's another problem you have to solve. But you aren't tapping to the Americana and you're not tapping to the straight arm lock. So from there, you'd be working your arm back towards your body, keeping it in nice and tight to your rib cage and working to solve the problem of mount in whatever way you're being taught or whatever way works for you. You need to be quick with punching that arm straight because if I catch you in an Americana situation, the second that I get your arm isolated, I don't even necessarily need your arm all the way down to the mat yet. I can begin to affect that rotational force and get the tap. So this isn't a position or a submission that you want to wait, right? You feel that grip on your wrist, punch your arm straight, focus on keeping the thumb down, and you'll be safe for the moment. And I just want to take a second to give my sponsor, X Martial, a shout out. On the mats, you've got seconds to react and sometimes even less. You train for hours to move with precision. Your gear should keep up. X Martial makes high quality, high performance no-gi gear. The fit is clean and the material, durable, breathable, and built for battle. One thing I can't stand about certain no-gi brands is how quickly the material falls apart and how quickly the designs wash away. Literally every single one of my rash guards that I own from X Martial has stood the test of time. I've been training jiu-jitsu for 9 years and I still have rash guards that look brand new. And since we're talking about the designs, they're original, they're unique, they help you look good. If you're gonna go compete and you don't feel you look your best, you think that's helping you in your performance, you wanna go out and feel good about the person that you've built. And no-gi attire definitely helps with that. So if you want to look as good as me and probably even better, get over to xmartial.com and grab yourself some gear. I know you'd be happy you did. Look good, feel sharp, roll hard. Let's get back to the video. The next submission you're probably going to be victimized a lot by is the kimura. What I like most about the kimura is that you can hit it from multiple angles, but a common way that you will see this hit is from mount. So as you can see here, my training partner's in mount. He starts to lock up the kimura. When I feel his hand grab wrist control on the arm that he's isolating, I need to act immediately. Not only am I pressing my hand down into the floor, but I'm also pushing with my tricep. So essentially, I'm pushing my arm down and back in a diagonal angle. I'm also going to do a slight side crunch to my oblique towards the arm that he's isolating. If I do all of these together, it makes finishing the kimura very difficult. And remember what I said in the beginning, you don't need to be perfect at nullifying the position or the submission. You just need to be a big enough pain in the ass that makes your opponent want to move on to something else. I can tell you right now that with 9 years of experience being a brown belt, if I lock up a kimura and I feel my opponent doing this, I just move to something else. I'm not even gonna waste time or energy, especially if it's a competition. I don't wanna waste energy. I don't wanna waste time. I'm gonna move to something else. So that's what you want, right? It keeps you safe. Obviously, the deeper into the submission you allow your opponent to get you, the more danger you're in. So that's why a lot of these techniques need to happen right in the beginning. This one is so simple and so easy to do, it almost feels like it shouldn't work, especially if you're just seeing it now for the first time. But trust me, get back to your school and try this on the mats with your favorite training partner. It's wild how well it works. It's pretty cool. And the last submission that you will most likely be victimized by as a white belt is the straight ankle lock. If you aren't familiar with the straight ankle lock yet, that's fine. Again, you don't need to know how to do the submission. We're just teaching the defense. But if you are unfamiliar, it is an ankle break, and you have to respect these, because if someone full sends this, it's gonna hurt, you're gonna feel it. So as you can see in this example, AJ starts to lock up the straight ankle lock on me. I feel this coming because his outside arm wraps over and under my isolated leg. See, there's a common denominator there. My leg is isolated. And then he begins to choke back on that leg so that his radial bone of his forearm, the bone that's in line with your thumb, chokes down just above my heel into the soft spot of my Achilles tendon. These are all telltale signs or red flags that a straight ankle lock is coming. And the second I feel this, I perform what's called the iron boot. In order to do that, all we're really doing is doing a leg extension with our quads and dorsiflexing with our foot, which locks our leg all into one piece, earning the title, the iron boot. Now, again, remember, this just buys me a little bit of time. Higher level guys are gonna transition to other stuff, while lower level guys will probably wrench on it and wrench on it. They might tire themselves out until they get frustrated with it. We just need to be a big enough pain in the ass until your opponent moves to something else, because there's, again, opportunity in movement. Now, as you can see in this example, once I deploy the iron boot, I'm immediately stripping his foot that's on my hip off my hip. From there, I sit on top of his foot, and then I sit over next to his foot. From here, I can lean up and grab a collar tie on the back of his neck. I'm then looking to stand up and then eventually drop into mount right from there. It truly is that easy, especially when your opponent overly commits to that straight ankle lock. From my perspective, if someone begins to strip my foot off their hip, I'm abandoning it. I'm switching to something else. If someone starts to counter leg lock me, I'm switching to something else. I'm beginning to deploy defenses or transitions, whatever it may be. Sometimes you're gonna get someone who overcommits, and that's absolutely fine. It's good for you. One thing I want you to pay attention to is that once I sit over his foot off to the left side, and I reach up and grab his neck, I'm using that hand around the back of his neck to also help me get up to my feet. I'm doing a lat row on the back of his neck that helps pull my weight forward to get me up to my feet to drop into mount. Another useful tactic that you can remember is if someone is trying to leg lock you, if you can get to your feet and you put all your weight into the leg, standing on that leg that they're attacking, it makes it almost impossible to finish that specific leg lock. Again, they would have to transition to something else. But common denominator, there's opportunity in movement. So you force a transition, and in the middle of that transition, you're finding your escape. You're finding new movements for yourself. So these are 3 joint locks that you're gonna see as a white belt starting off. If you get caught with these, not a big deal. You tap and move on. You tap and learn. Don't beat yourself up if you continuously get caught in Americanas or Kimuras or straight ankles. I don't care if you get caught 10 times in the same thing back to back. That can be a little frustrating, but it's an opportunity to learn and to grow. You can kind of dissect what's going on, especially if you're filming. I've always recommended you guys that you film your rounds as long as everybody's cool with it in the room that you're in. And it really becomes a powerful review tool to see what you're doing. I can't tell you how many times I had filmed something and in my mind, I'm like, oh, that had to look awesome. I had to have crushed that. It felt so smooth, it's so good. And then I go back and look and it was complete garbage. And I see exactly what I did. Had I not filmed it, I wouldn't have had any idea and I would have kept doing the same garbage movements. So that's another bonus tip for you guys in this video. And if you guys are falling victim to certain joint locks that you can't seem to solve, drop it in the comments. I might pick your comment and do a video on it. I like to engage and help you guys as much as possible, so don't forget to comment. With that, you know how we like to end them. Sometimes backwards, always forwards. I'll see you in the next one.